We truly have to be lifelong learners because if we want to stay relevant, if we want to be current, if we want to be able to engage the younger generations, well, it's back to a lot of the questions you've asked that we've talked about today. Who are you listening to? What are your sources? Where are you getting fed? And are you keeping your cup filled, so to speak, because we can't give what we don't have.
Welcome to the Age of Lions podcast, a platform and community dedicated to bringing purpose, strategy, and calling to kingdom-minded people who are 50 plus and excited about their next chapter. Here's your host, Mark Clement.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Age of Lions podcast. So excited that you're here today. That was a clip of our guest today, Rex Davis. Rex is one of my good friends, an amazing guy. Has had an amazing career, multiple careers actually, and is the author of a brand new book called Free Fall that's coming up here in November. And we're super honored to have him as a guest today and excited to have him. And as you heard from that clip, he is full of wisdom and insight and perspective. And one of the things I love about Rex is he has incredible energy. He is raring to go. He's just getting started in his mind, and he is making an incredible difference in the lives of many, many people around him. Rex has his resume is quite impressive. He's a Bronze Star medal winner in the Army. He was a career officer, led men into battle. I believe he was a lieutenant colonel when he retired. I may have that rank wrong, but I think that's what it was. He's had an incredible career as a pastor, and has just touched many, many lives. And I've been honored to be able to be part of his work progress over the last years. He's written this book, coached him, and worked with him on his platform and writing the book and getting the word out and all the marketing and all that. It's been super fun to help him build that platform. So I've had kind of a front row seat to Rex Davis, and you'll hear me say this in the podcast, but he's the most consistent, stable person I've ever been around. He is the real deal. He walks the walk, he talks the talk, and he is awesome. So I'm excited for you to hear from him. I want to thank everybody for your support and your prayers over the last week as I was traveling and on that wilderness hike, and it was an incredible experience. I'm not going to get into that today, but I am going to share with you a little bit more about it in the coming weeks. In fact, I wanted to say this too. The timeline sometimes when you're listening to the interviews may seem a little wonky, and that's because we record way ahead often. So this was actually recorded in July. I had just signed up for the trip and was just starting to get ready and work out, and we talked about that a little bit. And in your mind, you might be like, well, I thought that was last week, and it was. So you have to remember sometimes the episodes are recorded weeks, sometimes even a couple months ahead of time. So don't let that throw you. But anyway, thank you for all your support prayers on that. And it was an incredible experience. I can't wait to share a little bit more with you about what I've been learning and how it impacted me. So get ready for a great episode with Rex Davis, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks.
Well, what's up, Rex Davis? Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Mark.
I've been looking forward to this for several weeks since we got it on the calendar, and I think you and I are both back from some trips. You had a big overseas trip, I had a little vacation, and so we're back in the same town, ready to roll. And how's your summer going so far?
Summer's been incredible, Mark. We had a chance to take a family trip in June, which we always do, and I have to say it was the best trip that we've ever had as a family. We've been fortunate to travel to a lot of places, but we went to Greece and Egypt, and we did an ancient civilization educational tour. And
Wow.
It was phenomenal. My daughter, as you know, is going to be a teacher. And so I think the extra benefit that we got out of that trip is when she goes into the classroom talking about classical, specifically classical Christian education, and things that she's really passionate about, such as 18th century philosophy, ancient civilization. She has seen the things that she's going to be talking about in the classroom. She's seen it. She's experienced it. And so we got kind of I feel like double value for the trip.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys are kind of at an interesting stage of life because Eva just graduated from high school, about to go to college. So kind of moving into that empty nest syndrome. How are y'all feeling about that?
We're excited, Mark. That's one of the advantages of being an older dad. I think the fact that I have an 18-year-old in my 60s has helped keep me relevant. because I'm having conversations with people that are 10 years older than me in their 70s, but yet I have a teenager in my home that's getting ready to go to college. And I really do believe it's helped me to maintain relevancy because of all of those conversations.
Right. She's keeping you young.
She is.
Yeah, she's great. As I was telling everybody before we got on together, you and your daughter Eva have a podcast together as part of your platform. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but she's great. She's super smart. She's very bright, and she makes you look good. I'm not going to lie to you.
I can't argue. She does.
Yeah. So one thing I like to ask everybody is, we are obviously talking about aging with purpose, aging with intentionality, is at what point in your life did you kind of have that aha moment, that realization of, I'm older than I used to be. I've got fewer years left than I've already had, and it's not I'm not talking about mindset. I'm not talking about acting old or feeling old, but just, what was that moment where you just kind of had that moment of I am a little older, and so I'm at a different stage of life. What was that for you? What was that moment for you?
Oh, that's an easy one for me, Mark. Part of a lot of my story, but I had a parachute accident in the Army when I was 35 years old. Came out of the aircraft one night, parachute didn't open, should have killed me, put me in the hospital for 40 days, and just broken, busted, and all you could do was lay in the bed and recover. I had a broken back. My hip was broken in two places, split my pelvic girdle completely apart. That was the most painful part of it. And, when I tell that story, people are fascinated with it. They're like, oh man, you survived a parachute not opening? Yeah, I did. Well, again, at 35, even though I still think that's relatively young, it did make me consider, wow, you almost left a widow. And have you properly prepared financially, emotionally? Did you leave instructions about what you wanted at your funeral? All of those things. And you do have the realization, oh my gosh, I'm not 20 years old anymore. But in conjunction with that, it's easy for me to remember, Mark, because the book Halftime by Bob Buford was published for the first time that same year in 1995. Now, I don't remember how long it was before I got that book in my hands, but shortly after my recovery from the parachute accident, I came across the book Halftime, and it revolutionized the way that I see my life, the way I think about things, because it had never dawned on me. Now that book is, 30 years old? Okay, so there's Halftime Ministries, there's Fourth Quarter Ministries. We all get it, but you got to rewind 30 years ago. It had never dawned on me that your life has a first half and a second half. And to put it, we're so football heavy in the South, it resonated with me. And I'm like, dude, you're entering the opening minutes of the second half. And I think I was actually 40. When that book was published in 95, I think that book got in my hands when I was 40 years old. And I looked at it and I thought, wow, if you live to be at 80, you truly are at halftime. What are you going to do in the second half?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because most people that we've talked to, their aha moments are closer to the 50s. Maybe their eyesight started to fade, or had to go through the readers, or they had some kind of thing like that happen, or a physical thing. But that's really interesting that happened to you at such a relatively young age, to have that sort of epiphany. And I would argue that there's probably a lot of benefit in that, having that realization sooner than later. Again, you weren't old. I mean, I don't feel like we're old now, even though we are older than we were then. But I had one other guest kind of have a similar experience. I think Sean Lovejoy.
Oh yeah.
And Sean was a great interview. I don't know if he's before or after you in the order of things, but if he hasn't happened yet, you got something to look forward to, or if maybe you have to go back and listen to it. But it was a great interview. Sean had a similar story in that his mother passed away when he was really, really young. He was like a teenager, and it put mortality kind of front and center for him. And so he said, really, all my life since that point, I've been very aware that there's an end date. And we all know that intellectually, but we don't think about it, and we don't focus on it. until we typically get older. So I feel like that's kind of a blessing that you had that epiphany. What advantage do you think that gave you getting into that mindset probably 10-ish years before most people?
Well, I think it's just made me more intentional in my relationships, in the time that I spend, how I spend that time. Sean's absolutely right. There's an expiration date on this. And I tell that to younger friends of mine all the time. There is an expiration date. And here's the other thing that specifically that accident did for me, because I was an airborne ranger in the Army at the time. I had all the ribbons, all the medals. I had led troops in combat, all of that. And I think that I kind of thought I was invincible, Mr. Tough Guy. Well, that incident showed me very quickly, hey, you're not invincible. There is an expiration date. And oh yeah, by the way, I was so busted up that I had to have help going to the bathroom. Let's just be direct. Number one and number two. And when your wife at 35 years old has to help you with number two, it is very humbling. And I don't mean to be graphic, but it was a moment. I'm like, bro, you're an airborne ranger and you can't even go to the bathroom by yourself. Yeah. Very humbling, but it taught me something about the fact that, hey, we need each other. God created us that way. And there's going to be moments in your life, no matter how old you are, what season that you're in, you're going to need somebody to help you. And you're not invincible. I'm not invincible. And I still suffer from that a little bit, Mark. I'll say this about growing older, because so much of my life has been physical. How far you can run, how many push-ups you can do. I still run 2 miles a day at 65 years old. I still run 5Ks. I'm still thinking about doing a marathon one more time. Well, if you're going to run a marathon one more time, I got to drop 20 pounds because my body can't handle that kind of weight for 26 miles. It can handle it for 5 miles to 10 miles, but not 26. So all that to say, I think as part of this process, I already realize it's going to be harder for me to continue to get older physically because I can't do some of the things that I've always done. And it's one of the reasons I'm really embracing golf. I love golf. I've always loved golf. But golf is a game that'll carry me into my 90s. And so let's get serious about it and let's learn the physics behind it instead of just going out and swinging a club.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm going through that right now. This is a longer story. This is more about you than me, but I will just say that I've got a big outdoor kind of wilderness trip coming up this fall. I'm super excited about, and it's a multi-day, multi-mile hike, carrying a 50-pound pack, that whole thing. And as soon as I made that decision, I was like, I got to make some changes, because I'm not going to be the weak person on that trip.
I love it.
I'm going to be a leader. So I just this week, I joined a thing called F3, which is a national ministry, a fitness ministry, Fitness, Faith, and Fellowship, I think is what it stands for. And there's a chapter that meets in the park right behind my house. And I've been watching these guys for years thinking, I'll never do that. Well, I'll have you know, I started Monday and oh my gosh, I'm so sore right now. But I was talking to my wife this morning about it, and she's a fitness person. So she's really excited that I'm doing this and knows a lot about it. But as we were talking about it, I was like, if I'd have waited just a few more years to do this, it might have been too late at this level, because I'm struggling and I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to get stronger, but it just is going to get harder and harder and harder as I get older. So I'm so glad I'm doing it now. And
way to go.
Yeah. It's a thing. Well, speaking of that, and the physical side of it is something I've been knowing I need to do better at. And so now I'm glad I'm taking that step, but besides that, what other parts of your life are you being really strategic about as you are getting older? I know I think of you as one of the most strategic people I know. I know you don't do anything by chance. Everything's on purpose. Everything's by design. So aside from staying in good physical shape, what else are you doing to be strategic about being a strong, older guy who's, still doing his life, still leading other people, having influence, making a difference? What are some things you're doing?
Great question, Mark. And it's a very simple answer, but there you probably peel the onion back a little bit on it. I spend a lot of time with people, and I spend a lot of time with different age groups of people.
Oh, that's good.
I ask a lot of questions. You would probably be surprised at the amount of time I spend with younger people. And I think part of that is because, again, I have an 18-year-old daughter. So that kind of gives me access into the younger generation. Let's face it, because you kind of go, why is that? You must be a really cool guy. No, because I have an 18-year-old, they think I'm younger than I am. You with me?
Yeah.
They think I'm younger than I am. And yes, she has helped keep me young physically. I've kept myself in shape. But intentionally, I spend a lot of time with 20, 30-year-olds, my age group. And I spend a lot of time with guys that are older than me.
Yep.
Why? Because I want to know what their perspective is. The 75-year-old has a different perspective about life than I do. He has different priorities. He's asking different questions. Same thing with the 20 and 30-year-olds. My dad taught me this. 20 for him wasn't 20 for me. Well, 20 for me isn't 20 for my daughter. And I better figure out what the environmental things are, the variables, so to speak, are that she's faced with, because being 20 years old is just different now than it was when I was 20. And I want to know, hey, what is that? What's different for you? What are the things that you're facing? What are you most concerned about? Just getting back from Greece and Egypt, brother, I can't tell you how many questions I ask of people because I want to know, hey, what's your life like? What are you concerned about? What do you think about anything? Our country, your country, international relations, immigration in your country, all those things that are on the table. And so that's a long answer to a short question. But in spending time with people, I'm very intentional about the subjects that we cover. I don't get into anything and everything because I don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say is the hardest part about getting older, and what's the best part about getting older?
Oh, man, I love this. It's a great question. The hardest part for me, and I think a lot of older people will kind of relate to this, different countries are better at honoring our elders. If you look at the Asian Indian culture, they're very good about honoring their elders. I spent 4 years in Hawaii, so I'm familiar with Pacific Asian culture. They do a great job at honoring their elders. Okay. America, I feel like we used to do a good job of honoring our elders, and I feel like we've lost that. And now that I am an elder, it's a little frustrating sometimes that I think people just view me or my age group. It's back to the okay boomer thing. That was very frustrating when that thing first hit. Okay, boomer. And I'm like, well, okay, you have a point, but you're creating a narrative, and I'm a pretty nice guy. And by the way, I do know some things that would help you if you would just kind of meet me halfway. And so that's the frustrating thing. I think we are currently in a epidemic in our American culture where we are dishonoring our elders. And I'm not going to do it, Mark. There's a lot of people that are my elders, and I am going to honor them and respect them simply due to the fact they've lived longer than I have. They see the world different than I do. And oh, by the way, they do know some things that I don't know. So that's the first half of the question.
I want to say right there that,
sure.
Not to interrupt you, but I want to say that that's one of the whole big points of this whole exercise of this podcast, this platform, is to say that is the culture we live in, right, wrong, or otherwise, good or bad or otherwise. But it's one thing for the culture to change how they look at it, and that's something we really can't control. But it's another thing for us to say we're going to allow it or not allow it. And I think there's a way for us to make ourselves relevant and stay relevant longer, make ourselves available, because it's real easy to say, you know what, I'm going to take my ball and go home. If they don't respect me, then screw them. I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
And the truth is that while you want to be honored and you want people to seek you out, and some do, the reality is we might need to lead them in that process, not for selfish purposes, not to make ourselves more important than we are, but just to say, hey, I've got something for you. I want to give you something from my life, my wisdom, my experience, my failures, all the things, and finding a way to help make that happen, even if they don't know the right questions to ask or the way to look at it. And so the way you're modeling that with your elders, I was just meeting with my coach this morning. That's where I was right before this. He's in his 70s. I'm in my 50s. I honor him. I respect him. I look up to him. I want to know what he has to say. Like there's a way to model that. And I talk about it a lot on this even. I tell people, I have a coach. I have somebody I'm looking to. I don't have it all figured out. I'm not doing this because I'm an expert. I'm doing it because I want to learn. Learn from you, learn from all the other guests. And so there's a way to change that expectation or set the table in a different way where we're saying, hey, we're not going to go this way. We're going to go this way. And finding people. And I've also found that a lot of younger people, even though the culture at large isn't elderly friendly per se, or doesn't necessarily honor in the West the way that you would hope, there is an element of people, and I think most people, even in their heart, they actually want that. They just don't know how to get it. They don't know how to ask for a mentor. They don't know how to go seek advice. They don't know how to ask good questions. And we could blame social media or anything else you want to, technology, that's fine, whatever the reason is, doesn't matter. The fact is, it's a thing. And so if we can help model how to do that and make ourselves available to them and pour into them, just like you said, hanging around with the younger people, with your daughter and her friends. And, for me, that's the college group that my wife and I help get to lead because she works at a college, and we have a small group that we pour into. I could sit on the back row in our house when they come over and not get involved, or I can say, hey, I'm going to go to the table. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to ask them questions. I'm going to elbow my way into that conversation, and I'm going to love on them. I'm not going to be pushy. I'm not going to force it, but I'm going to be present. Maybe present's the right word. What do you think?
Well, number one, I love that. Number two, I honor you, Mark, for your heart in wanting to model that in your podcast, because the only way we're ever going to solve that particular problem is through conversation, engagement. I had this same conversation with my morning small group, which this particular group is a bunch of guys that are my age and older, and I know that they're frustrated. They even brought it up this morning. Hey, no one seeks us out. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do to fix that? And you just said it, the word's engagement. I am not, and I say it this way, and I reminded them, hey, you are an elder. And when I read the word elder in the Bible, I'm not going to break down the Greek on that, but It's a shepherd. It's a person that has life experience. It's a person that has spiritual maturity. And so every place you see in the Bible that talks about being an elder, sometimes it's a position, but what I'm telling people my age, don't think about it that way. It's not a position. It's not a title. It's a role in society and in culture. I have a role as an elder, and I have a responsibility to continue to do that. And I'm not going to resign that role. I'm not going to give it away, but I'm not, to use your phrase, I'm not going to sit on the back porch and just, I'm going to take my ball and go home. I am going to continue to engage when people invite me on the podcast, and we're going to have these conversations, and it's going to be awesome. So
yeah, I agree.
Honor you for what you're doing. I love it.
Well, thank you, man. I actually read a really great book on my vacation last week. It's by a guy named Chris Bruno. I think Bruno's his last name. He runs a ministry called Restoration Project. And he has written a book called Sage, and it's all about that stage of life. There's John Elders talks a lot about this, the different stages of, especially for a man. But he has a little catchphrase. In fact, I was just talking to my coach about this morning, but he said, you can be elderly or you can be an elder. And those are two very different things. And the elderly, I think, is the fade out. I'm not available. I'm going to take my ball, go home. I'm going to be an old grouch, all that stuff. Or I can be an elder where I'm saying, hey, God has gifted me, prepared me, called me, equipped me to play a role in society, to play a role in my family, to play a role in my church, to play a role in my community where I can add value, help younger guys or women, depending on the thing, pour into them, speak life into them, encourage them, call them out, all the things that go with that. So I love that line, and you basically just said it. So I'm with you 100%. What do you think the best part of getting older is?
I wondered if you were going to come back to that because you asked me a 2-part question, and I'm like, we still got part 2 coming.
Yeah.
The best part, I'm going to try to answer this one very directly because it ties into the first part. At my age, Mark, I don't care.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
I don't care. I've had 3 successful careers, and I'm proud of all 3 of them. I was an active duty Army officer for 22 years. I was a financial analyst for a large commercial construction firm for 10 years. I have been a full-time pastor for 10 years. Count that up. I've been around a minute. And at this point in my life, I am who I am. I've made the mistakes that I've made. And I'm not afraid of being embarrassed. I'm not afraid of somebody looking in my past and going, oh, you made a mistake 30 years ago. Yeah, I did. I probably made more than one. But the cool thing is I am willing to talk about it. And I tell the younger people I come into contact with in these environments, hey, nothing's off limits. I don't care what you want to talk about. We're talking about finances, my marriage, my relationship with my wife and family, my friends, my careers, sex. You want to ask me about, intimacy and the marriage. I don't care what it is. Yeah. And I will tell you the mistakes I've made. And to go back to you, I just wrote the book down, Sage. Anytime somebody mentions a book, I'm like, if you're reading it, I need to check it out and I probably need to read it. But here's another thing that goes with that. And I learned this from a guy in South Carolina. Hey, don't be a sage on the stage, be a guide on the side. Well, that's what I want to be. I'm not trying to be a sage on the stage. I'm here as an elder to help guide you. And man, it's for free. It is for free. And I want to give it away.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so powerful. Yeah, I think there's a freedom that comes with age, especially if you're trying to do it right. And again, not perfectly. We've all made a lot of mistakes, but that's part of the point. Is there some wisdom in that? And I think as we get older, it's not that you don't care what other people think in the way that you're kind of a jerk about it. It's that I'm not going to be swayed or affected, or I'm not trying to please people. It's more, there's a freedom that comes with being older, especially when you've grown in your identity and your identity is in Christ, and you know who you are because of Him, not because of your job or because of anything else in your life. And and it's hard when you're younger because you're so wrapped up, especially as a man. You're trying to earn a living for your family. You're trying to grow in your career, get promoted. It's a balancing act. But as we get older, there is a place that says, I'm not defined by you. I'm not defined by whether you like me or not, or whether you think I did a good job or not. I know where I'm at. I know I did a good job, or I know I didn't do. That's on me. I'm not defined by your input on it. I welcome that. You're welcome to criticize me or say what you want to say, but it's me and the Lord. He's shaping me. He's forming me. That's my identity, is in being a son in the kingdom, being a prince in the kingdom, not because of somebody else. And there's a lot. I think sometimes we think of older people as, they'll say anything. It's like, yeah. And like you talk about, you can ask me anything 100%, but also like my wife and I, we tell a lot of the younger people that we talk to, especially when they come to us and they have an issue that they're not sure if they can say, it's like, you're not going to shock me. I'm just telling you, you're not going to shock me. I've either done it or I've heard it or I've seen it up close, or, and I wish that wasn't always true, but that's 56 years of life. In my case, almost 57. Like, you're not going to shock me. And I'm not going to define you by your mistakes any more than I want you to define me by mine. I'm going to love you for who you are as a child of God. And we're going to get through this. And there's a bigger picture, because I think we know, and I'm getting on my soapbox here, but I think we know, because we're older and we've been in the faith and we've had a relationship and a journey with God, that He has never not shown up, not once. And that's what we tell the younger people all the time. Like, I know it looks bad. I know that this seems overwhelming. I know you think your life is over. It's not. It's not. That God is bigger than that, and He can get you through this. He will get you through it. And he's undefeated. That's what I love to say. He's never, ever, ever lost and is never going to. And I can tell you from 56 years of all the times I've seen him come through, he's going to come through.
Absolutely. Man, I love that, Mark. That is so good. And I would add this because you just said it in a way. We will say and talk about anything at our age, but we can't. The tone in which we say it is extremely important. And so I'm going to try to phrase it this way. Even though we will be very direct and we're talking about anything, we can't be grumpy. That's one thing I would say to our age. But we can't be grumpy in the way that we say things to people. Hey, let's still be very life-giving. Let's guard the tone and the content of what we say and how we say it. And there's a way to do that. And I've learned that from a lot of my mentors and the leaders I've been around. I will say anything, but I won't say it anyway. There's always a better way to say something. Yeah.
Oh, that's so true. You know, one of the reasons I wanted you on here, and people already know why you're on here, because you're awesome. You're just laying down some gold. But you have a lot of experience, like you said, in your different careers, leading men into battle, leading people in a church, leading people in a company. And I know you've counseled a lot of people, encouraged a lot of people, coached a lot of people. And I know, especially as you've gotten older, a lot of them are probably older, probably in their 50 plus category. What do you think is one of the biggest issues that age group is facing? What are you seeing when you talk to people? What's a consistent issue that's coming up?
Well, I think the world has changed so much, and we are required to change with it, especially with technology. I almost hate to even say this, but AI. We could take this and talk about AI for the next hour, but what is this integration of AI into our daily lives? Not only what does that mean for a younger person, but what does that mean for an older person? I'm having those conversations. How do we adapt to that? And I think it's hard because, again, it's so different than what we were used to in our 20s that we're thinking back to our experience. We can't think like that. We have to look at the variables that have been introduced, and we have to maintain currency is one way to say it. We have to maintain relevance. And in order to do that, we cannot disengage. We have to engage and insert ourselves in to these conversations. It's tough. I get it. But I'm looking at friends of mine. I've got one guy I'm thinking of. I could tell he was really frustrated about a year ago. Well, he started his own blog. And I'm like, good for you, because I guarantee you there is an audience. And I've learned this in writing a book. I'm not talking to everybody, but I'm looking for the people that I can help. And when you embrace that mentality, I'm not looking for a platform. I'm not looking for an audience, but I am looking for a few people that need help and are willing to at least entertain what I might have to offer. That's what I'm looking for. And every person that's our age and older, again, don't look for the platform, but let's look for those individuals one by one that we can engage with and help and maybe provide a different perspective and some different insight. Yeah, for sure. Well, you just mentioned in your book, and I was telling our audience before we got on together that not only are you a friend of mine, and we've known each other for a long time, and we used to work together at the same organization, but you're actually a client of mine right now, which is a real honor for me to get to coach you and encourage you. And talk about your new book. I'm so excited about this, and you. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on here is you are the living embodiment of the thing we're talking about. You're the age you are, and you're going, you know what? I got more. I got another chapter. I got something else I want to do. I want to start a new thing. I want to build something. Whereas a lot of people our age are going, I'm done. I'm out of ideas. I'm this and that. It's like, no. God's prepped you, called you, equipped you, all the things that we talked about. And you're going, okay, I'm going to step into this new world. I've never written a book. I've never built a platform like this. I've never done this whole thing. And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not an expert at it. You're used to being an expert in other areas. So I'm going to step out and do something new.
Talk about the impetus for this and the process, the journey you've gone on to say, you know what, I'm gonna step out and do something new.
Oh my gosh, Mark, that's a loaded question. So
I know.
let me try. Yeah. So let me try to attack that one. And number one, thank you for coaching me in that endeavor and helping with that. I'm really excited about it. But man, it's been a 30-year process. And by the way, I'm gonna go ahead and say it so people know I'm 65 years old, and I am as energetic, as excited as I have ever been in my life. There's a lot of gas left in the tank, and baby, we're going to burn it up. But we're going to get this done. But there's a lot of ministry left, a lot of relationships. There's a book. Hey, by the way, there's more than one book. I've already got ideas for book 2, 3, 4, and 5, but I got to get one done first. But book 1 has been a real education for me, Mark. It started 30 years ago with the parachute accident because so many people were fascinated with that story. I'm like, hey, God gave you that story for a reason. You got to figure out a way to write a book about that. And I really felt led to do it. And so I wrote a book 20 years ago, and then the devil lied to me, and he told me 2 things. And he said, number one, hey, you're a country boy from Arkansas. Country boys don't write books. John Maxwell writes books. Max Lucado writes books. You don't write books. And I'm like, oh, but you got a point. And then he really got me with this one. He said, besides, nobody's going to read it. And I'm like, he's right. Nobody's going to read it. Nobody knows who I am. And so I took that thumb drive 20 years ago, Mark, and I stuck it in a drawer. And but it never left my heart. And so I went to a meeting a couple of years ago, and I was introduced in the meeting in Dallas. And there's a bunch of pastors, and somebody introduced a friend of mine. My boss introduced me, and he said, he's not going to tell you this, but you're looking at one of the only guys that's ever survived a parachute not opening. Well, they all rushed to me at the break, and they said, oh, man, that's awesome. Do you have a book? Yes, I have a book, and it's on a thumb drive in a drawer from 20 years ago. The Holy Spirit used that moment and taught me something. We had the casual conversation. I said, no, it's a great story. I don't have a book, yada, yada. And I walked off, and the Holy Spirit said to me in that moment, yet not mean, not loud, very softly, very gently, firmly, the Holy Spirit said, you have not stewarded your story well. Mark, I was blown away. I have stewarded my life. I have stewarded my finances, my resources, my family, my relationships, but my story, it had never dawned on me that my story was something to be stewarded. And then I took a couple of more steps, and then the Holy Spirit asked me a question. He said, would it not be worth it if your book helped one person? Totally revolutionized my thought process. Then I knew, okay, I'm ready to write the book. I'm not trying to sell books. I'm not trying to gain a platform. I'm trying to help one person. And I don't know where they are. Seattle, Denver, DC, Canada, Greece, Egypt. I don't know, but I'm looking for one person. And it was a totally different frame of mind. And I had to go get some coaches, had to go to some seminars, had to learn how to tie the story together. I've learned so much. It's like I'm getting a 500-pound gorilla off my back. Thumb drive, 20 years old to a finished product. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is going to be awesome. Had the opportunity to be involved in the process with you and read a lot of what you're writing. And I can't wait for people to see this. And we'll put in the show notes, even though this will probably come out a little bit before that, but we'll put links to your website that we're currently finishing up for you, and they can go sign up for notifications and where to buy the book and all that kind of stuff and find out more about you. So we'll put all that in there. You mentioned, you've answered several of the next questions that I had, but one thing I wanted to ask you, you even mentioned at the beginning, you said, how excited you are, how alive you are, how full of energy you are around this new thing in your life. And that's kind of who you are. You always bring a lot to the table, but what is it about stepping out in faith, pursuing a dream, kind of getting out of your comfort zone? What is it about that has made you even more alive than you normally are, coming alive in a new way? What is it about that? Because I want people to hear that, because everybody's got something inside them God has put, even if they've pressed it way down, even if they can't even identify it anymore, but there's something in there. We're designed to dream. We're designed to step out in faith. God is attracted to risk, and he wants you to get out of that boat so that he can say, okay, now it's you and me, and let's do a thing. What is it about that has made you come alive? And I want you to say that in a way that encourages other people to be willing to take that risk, because even now, there's no guarantee of success, worldly success with this. It may not sell 1 million copies. It might. I mean, we don't know. But that's not the point. The point is you're pursuing the thing that God's put in your heart, and that alone is enough. So what is it about that's made you come alive?
Yeah, that's probably one of the best questions you could ask, Mark. I'm going to try to answer it this way. The first thing, and this might surprise some people. There's some surveys that have come out recently within the last couple of years talking about the effectiveness of your decades in life. In the 60s, I don't even know who did the survey. I've heard it repeated so much recently, but your 60s are your most productive decade. Well, if that's true, let's peel that onion back. And for me, Mark, I just now feel qualified to write a book. Could I have I wrote the book 20 years ago. Well, here's a tip. Did you go back and pull the thumb drive out? Absolutely not. What I wrote 20 years ago, that's 20 years dated. The heart is still there. The passion is still there, but I have not looked at that thumb drive. I don't care, because it's different. It's a different perspective. It's fresh. It's exciting. But here's the thing. I have realized I'm just now to the point at 65 that I feel like I have the proper perspective on all of the things that have happened to me and the life lessons. And I am a elder, and I feel qualified to speak as an elder, whether it's through a book or a podcast or a conversation at the table. So that's the first part of it. It's taken me 40 years, and I'm a slow learner. I'm sorry. I got a public education from the state of Arkansas. Some people are saying, like, dude, it took you yeah. I've thought about running for public office, Mark. I wouldn't. That's not what I'm called to. But I think I'm just at a point in my life where I have enough experience where I could be a public servant, if that makes sense. And I don't want to discourage people that are in the 20s, 30s, 40s. Hey, if that's what you're called to, engage that process. But for me, I feel like I'm just now at the point that I have enough life experience to effectively address a lot of these issues. And here's the second part. I think as we age, we fall into the trap, especially in this culture, that anything we do has to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to have flaws in it. My book is going to have flaws. My podcast has flaws. I'm going to go back and look at this and go, oh my gosh, did you really say that? Did you say it that way? But that's part of authenticity. Man, can we just have fun and share our lives together and maybe learn something in the process? That's where I am with this platform, book, all this stuff. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, and it's not going to be. You're absolutely right, and depending on your personality type too. That's like if you're an Enneagram person, I'm a 1. I'm a perfectionist. Technically by definition of that particular evaluation thing. But yeah, you have to learn at some point that you and I were talking about it before we got onto the recording here today. Is like I'm recording these ahead of when they're going to come out by a couple months, really. And I'm already looking back at the first ones going, gosh, I could have done that better. I've learned so much in the process. But you know what? It's fine. Nobody cares. Just you gave a genuine effort and you learn as you go, and we'll all grow through it together. So that's all good. I love that you mentioned that the thing about your most impactful decades. That's actually, and I shared this in the first episode in the kind of the preview of it, that the catalyst for this whole thing that we're doing right now came from that survey that you're talking about. It's got to be the same thing. I heard it on Daniel Floyd's podcast. It was his first or second episode, and the episode wasn't about that, but it was like an aside, and they just mentioned this. And I think he said it was a Harvard study and maybe published in the Wall Street Journal or New York Times, whatever it was. And it said that your most impactful decades were 60s, number 1, 70s, number 2. No, I'm sorry. 60s, number 1, 50, is it set, or
Yeah, 70s, I think, is 2.
And then 50s was number 3.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about that is I can't find that survey anywhere. I have Googled, I've looked at the New York Times, I've looked at Harvard Business, I've searched it all. I can't find it. And I went back to that podcast episode from Daniel Floyd, and that part isn't on there anymore. They cut it out. I think it might be, an urban myth, or it came from somewhere that actually wasn't true. But I will say this, when I heard it, it resonated as true to me. And I believe that it's true, regardless of whether there's a scientific survey that proves it or not, or someone just made that up. But I'm just telling you, I think it's true. And that was literally what started me down this journey 2 years ago, is when I heard that. And it took 2 years to get to this point and start doing this. But because I was like, you know what? I think that's true. I think it's because we have more experience, more resources, more wisdom, more time. We're usually a little bit more time in our schedule as we get older, more control of our life. Maybe we're higher up in a company, or we own a company, or we don't work anymore in an official way. And whatever it is. And if it's not true, I'm going to make it true. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I'm like,
right.
dadgummit, I feel like I'm just getting started. And I feel like I'm finally ready to give back in a different way. Anyway, so it's so cool that you mentioned that, because you and I have not talked about that. So I heard the same thing. If anybody knows if that's real or not, I'd love to hear it. But I'm telling you it's true, because I believe it with my whole heart.
And that's really what we're talking about. And I love what you just said. Even if it's not, hey, let's make it true. And I'll do, Mark. I really want to encourage people that are listening to you and your podcast, and that may be in that season of life that we're in. Maybe you've already retired from a job. Great, but we don't retire from life. We don't retire from engaging. And it can be grandkids that you're mentoring. It can be community service. There's a ton of different areas that we can stay engaged in, involved in. But I am confident that the younger generation needs us. They want us. And oh, by the way, we need them, because we can learn from each other. And again, just pick up your phone. I have about 2 seconds to do something correctly on my phone before my daughter grabs it out of my hand and say, hey, Dad, there's a better way to do that. Well, you know what? I'm okay with that. She's a digital native. I'm a digital immigrant.
Right. That's a good word. Well, you mentioned in that whole answer to that question, you talked about seeking help from other people. You got coaches, and I want to talk to you about coaching a little bit, because at our age, 50 plus, it's easy to say, I don't need a coach, or I don't want a coach, or I should know how to do whatever I'm going to do. I don't need help with it. But I love this about you, because when you engaged me as a coach, you actually had some coaches already. You had a book editing, writing coach. You had a podcast coach. You had, I don't know how many you had. And then you had me come in to help you with the platform building and the things that we do. And this isn't a shameless plug for what I do, but I just want you to talk about coaching in general. Like I said, I met with my coach this morning. I have a coach. There's so much value in bringing somebody in who knows how to do something you don't know how to do. And even if you do kind of know how, or even if you're good at it, it's still good to have somebody else with a different set of eyes, different perspective, different, they don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak. They're objective. Why did you look to get so many coaches? How has it helped you? If you want to talk about how great I am, that's fine. I'm okay with it. But I really just want you to talk about the principle of coaching and why it matters so much.
Yeah, I think that's a great question too, Mark. And and you are great, by the way. Shameless plug. If you need some help with your platform, call Mark, and he will definitely help you, coach you, walk you through that process. And hey, part of that is not only the technical aspects involved. Some of it's the mentality involved, because you had to help coach me through this. My generation, we really shy away from anything that we perceive to be self-promotion. We don't want anything to do with that whatsoever. It's just a generation we were raised in. Don't talk about yourself. Don't promote yourself. Don't pat yourself on the back. Well, that's good in one respect. It's called humility. But in this social media culture, for instance, in my case, I have a book. Well, brother, if you're not excited about the book and you don't promote the book, Nobody else is going to promote it. Nobody else is going to be excited, and you're going to have to talk about it. And you even had to help me embrace that mentality. Hey, it's not self-promotion from a bragging perspective. It is just the reality. Hey, you have a product. You got to be the champion of that product. So that's one piece of it. The mentality, the technical aspect of it is, I think we fall into this cultural trap, Mark, because we do have so much access to knowledge and information that we just think we're supposed to know it. And if we don't know it, we can go Google it or go to YouTube and watch a video and we can figure it out. Well, that's just not true. Because your experience and all of the things that you've seen in production and media over the years, you have a data bank, so to speak, of not only knowledge, but experiences in the way that things work and don't work and the pitfalls. And I would be very naive not to take advantage of that because I just don't know that world. The same thing with the book. I can write. I've been writing my entire life, but I've never written a book. And so I just had, you call it an epiphany, again, public education from Arkansas, whatever you want to call it. I'm like, bro, you got to get, if I knew how to write a book and finish it, the key term being finish, I would have already done it. Well, why haven't you? Well, I'm obviously missing some pieces. And when I went and got a coach, like that, he said, I know what your problem is. Very first meeting, guy I've never met in my life. He said, I know what your problem is. I said, please tell me. And he told me, and I'm like, that's pretty astute. Now it's on me to act on it. Okay?
Right.
And so I made some changes. I took his advice, and it's been fantastic. Man, I can't say enough about keeping people in your life to ask questions of, especially people that are 10 years down the road from us. And I think that needs to go both ways. I want people 10 years in front of me. I want people 10, 20 years behind me, because all I'm going to do, I'm a funnel. Really, that's all I am. I'm a funnel. I'm going to take information, pass it. I heard somebody we both know very well say this last night on their podcast. You got to learn it. You got to live it. You got to leave it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, what I found with coaching is you're right in the sense of we have access to more information than we've ever had. Obviously, everybody knows that. You can learn how to do anything if you want to. It's all out there. You can assimilate information. You can watch some videos. You can do whatever. But when you have a coach in any given specialty, whatever it is, it's to me, it's not that you can't learn it otherwise. It's just that it's so accelerated when they bring it to you and present it in a way. Because what a good coach does, he or she will basically say, they'll say it in a way that you can understand it and you can apply it. And that's what good coaches do. You know, I don't coach everybody the same way. I might say something to you one way and say the same concept to somebody else a different way because they need to understand it differently. That's what a good coach does. And no matter how good you are at what you do, I always like the Michael Jordan example. Michael Jordan had a coach, a really great coach. He needed a coach, an outside person to say, here's where you can improve. Here's where you can tweak. Here's where you can do 1% better. Here's something you're not seeing. You're great at this, but you're missing it over here. Like that's the beauty of the coach is it just everything is 100 times faster. And so it's worth it to me to pay somebody to help me get somewhere in 6 months versus 6 years if I'm doing it on my own or whatever the time frame is. So yeah, there's so much value in that, and you're so wise to recognize that about yourself and to lean into it. That's one of the things I knew when you first talked to me about this. When you already had coaches in certain areas, I was like, hey, this guy, he gets it. He's not messing around. He's serious about what he's doing. And that's really encouraging. I think we can all learn from that. One thing, we were talking about how this isn't perfect, and I wish there were things I did in the early episodes that I now know. But one thing I've started to do in the last few interviews is, because this is a kingdom-minded, kingdom-based thing, we're talking to people who are believers. One thing I've started to ask people is, how has your faith, and faith is a broad term, but your faith, your journey with your walk, your journey with Christ, however you want to say it, how has that grown and how has that changed as you've gotten older from where you were maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago? What's different about your walk with God?
I think my trust in God, Mark, in who he is. God has a character. He has a nature. And the older we get and the more we're in relationship with God or any person, for that matter of fact, you and I, the more that we're around each other, the more we talk, the more we have these conversations, the more we find out, well, I know Mark, he would never say something like that, or he would never say it in that way. I know his voice. I know his nature. I know his character. Well, for me, that's to say we can take that application in a friendship, in our marriage, and we can apply that to God. The more I have walked with God, I know his voice. I know his character. I know his nature. And I have a tremendous amount of confidence in who he is. God always has our best interest at heart. He's working on our behalf, even when we don't know it, even when we don't see it. He is a good God, and he's got our best interest at heart. And it's what makes him different than any other God that we read about in history. So the short answer for me is I think my walk with him has become more solid, more stable. I've developed more confidence in who he is and who he is through me.
Yeah. What would you say you're learning right now about God or learning about faith, learning about how to live that life? What's something you're kind of working on right now or learning right now that's maybe new?
Okay, God's perspective, that's an easy one for me. God's perspective is different than my perspective. And I have really spent a lot of time the past few years thinking about this topic of perspective. And I'm going to tell you a story. I've always got a story, Mark.
I'm counting on it.
Okay, well, let me tell you that this is money, and I got this from my dad. And it talks to perspective. My dad taught me this. God knows everything about all things. I know some things about a few things. Think about that for a minute. My dad taught me that. One day we're just sitting there having casual conversation, and my dad looks at me and says, son, he said, you got to remember, I know a few things about some things. God knows everything about all things. Well, I've continued to mull that over through the years, and it speaks to perspective. And so I used to start my college classes with this statement. I would walk in and 45 students. I would go, hey, good morning. My name's Rex. I'm one of the pastors on staff here. Have the privilege to teach the class for the next 4 weeks. And I have one thing and one thing only that you do not have. You can't have it because you haven't lived long enough to have it. Would anyone care to take a guess at what that is? And it was always fun. People would go, gray hair. No hair, kids. And I'm like, no, all those are great guesses, but the answer is perspective. And they would go, well, why is that? I'm like, because your perspective grows linear, it grows deeper, and it even grows what I call multispatially as you age. But my statement was actually incorrect. They do have perspective. Everybody has perspective. They do have it. It's just not as developed as yours and mine is because they haven't lived long enough. But it took a friend of mine to teach me that. I was at a campus, part of our church, and one Saturday morning after prayer, I'm talking to two 85-year-old men that I consider mentors in my life. And I was telling them about that engagement that I have with every class about perspective. And the fact that I told them they didn't have it. And I was 60 at this point. And the 85-year-old, he looks at me and he goes, perspective, that's a real interesting thing. And he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, remind me how old you are again. And I said, well, I'm 60, Robert. And he said, yeah. And then he put his arm all the way around me. And he said, perspective. He said, you don't have it either. And I looked at him and I just busted out laughing. And I'm like, isn't that so true? Here's at the time, a 60-year-old guy trying to tell an 85-year-old guy about perspective. I'm like, and if you want to put that in hourglass terms, the sands are running through my hourglass very quickly, but for him, they're running through really, really quick. And you got a guy that's 25 years your junior talking to you about perspective. It was a moment that changed me, Mark. And so I'm always, my life it's rock solid on principles, but I realize God has a different perspective than I do sometimes about things, about people, about the world I live in. And so do other people, my friends, my family. Sometimes they have a different perspective, and I need to close this a little bit more and open these two things.
Well, hey, man, as we're kind of wrapping up, just want to give you the platform for just a second. And is there anything you want to say to the audience, men and women like us in their 50 plus, 50, 60, 70s, whatever they are, watching this, maybe they're in their 40s and they're trying to get ahead, looking at the next couple of decades. If there's one last kind of final departing thought, what would you want to say to them?
It's just something I didn't really, think about that at all, Mark, in terms of, just thinking about this conversation, closing advice. But here's what jumps in my heart: be a lifelong learner. We use that phrase a lot around the environments that you and I are in. And I think that has to be more than a buzz phrase. It has to be more than a catchphrase. We truly have to be lifelong learners, because if we want to stay relevant, if we want to be current, if we want to be able to engage the younger generations, well, it's back to a lot of the questions you've asked that we've talked about today. Who are you listening to? What are your sources? Where are you getting fed? And are you keeping your cup filled, so to speak, because we can't give what we don't have. And so if you're frustrated, like I am sometimes, that I'm like, wow, I wish more younger people would engage with me. Well, we got to ask ourselves a very relevant question first. What do I have to give them? And what am I doing? Life lessons learned are great, and I got a bunch of them. But hey, I need to be learning some lessons today, which goes to the coaching. There's things that I'm still assimilating, that I'm still learning. And so I have to be relevant today, actively engaged, continuing to fill the tank so that I can give to other people and be relevant when you're invited on somebody's podcast. So I think that's what I would say. Be a lifelong learner. Don't get discouraged. And I used to have a pastor's wife that said this years ago about dreams. She used a fishing analogy. We used to go out with cane poles, and it had a little floater on it. I know some of our younger listeners may not understand that or have a visual, but we used to fish with just this one long cane pole, and it had what we called a float or a bobber. And you would put that on the water, and when a fish would grab the hook, that bobber would go underneath the water. Well, she said it this way: your dreams are just like a bobber on the water. It can get pulled down, but a bobber is always going to come back up. And if there's something in your heart that just keeps coming back to the surface, even though it's getting tugged by, hey, people, I'm old, they're not going to listen to me anymore, I feel isolated. There's a bobber in your heart about something. Don't discount it, don't discard it, and stay engaged.
I mean, nothing else to say. That was great.
As my Greek friends say, there you go.
Right. That's it. Take it or leave it. Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah. No, man, that's just pure gold. I appreciate that, man. I'm so thankful for you. I want to thank you for just the time today. And, again, I said it earlier, but the whole point of this, I'm like everybody else. I'm just trying to learn. So I've learned so much from you today. I appreciate you, appreciate your time, appreciate your wisdom, appreciate your perspective. I mean, I know you're not 85 yet. We'll have you back when you're 85. We'll learn some more, but I'm so thankful for your openness and just the way that you are looking to help other people, looking to engage, looking to grow, learn, share, impart wisdom. Everybody that I talk to, and it's evident today, I think, from anybody watching this, but everybody I talk to that knows you, they say the same stuff: consistency, stability, wisdom, walking closely with the Lord. Like you're able to give so much because you are walking with Him and you are learning and you're growing, and man, we're all benefiting from it today. I just want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you for having me, Mark. I'm blessed, brother. We're all blessed. And so it's an honor, a privilege to do life with you. Thank you for what you're sowing into my life, the things that you're coaching me with. And a matter of fact, even I need to have you on our podcast, shameless plug, Generation to Generation.
Yeah.
And we're having some fun. So I look forward to having you on. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'll be honored to do that. And we'll put that link in the show notes too. All right, brother. Have a great day.
You too, my friend.